I'm Kanagaraj, faculty for agriculture. I've been in this field for the last 15 years. I've gone to UPSC entry 5 times, 3 times for IAS notice in Forest Service. So this year, every year, we conduct 2 test batches. So one is for those who are writing mains this year, and another test series for those who are appearing mains next year. Okay. So some of you might be preparing for the next year mains, freshers, and then unfortunately, some of you failed in the prelims exam. So if you want to prepare for the next year mains, and this is a clear roadmap for you. Okay. So you can complete, okay, by following this test series, you can complete the entire optional before December. So this is the usual our preparation pattern, okay, preparation strategy. So before next year mains, we must complete the optional paper, right? So after December, you can allocate the time for the prelims preparation. And nowadays, okay, we have seen this year question paper. It's getting tough every year, including CSAT. So we need to allocate extra time for the prelims also. So if you complete the optional paper before December, it will be highly useful for you. Okay, so next year for revision, it will be very easy for you, because nowadays, see, in the current batch, in the current test batch for this year mains, many students have joined the test batch, and some of them are facing this difficulty because they are not prepared well, okay, in the last year. So in this time period, the 2 months, okay, because we have only 2 months time period in the prelims and the mains. So in this time period, they are it's very difficult for them to revision. Okay, so many of them actually freshly preparing for the mains. Okay, so this is a challenge. So next year again, you will be facing the same problem after 1 year of hard work. So actually, clearing prelims is one of the achievement, right? So nowadays, okay, so even clear prelims is one of the achievement. So after struggling for nearly 1 year and clear the prelims, you have this opportunity. So it's a very good opportunity. Okay, so out of 10 lakh candidates every year, okay, they are appearing for the UPSC examination. Only 10,000 candidates are clearing the prelims exam, right? So this is a very good opportunity. But at the same time, because of the last year preparation failure, preparation, okay, without proper planning, now they are facing the difficulty. After clearing the prelims, they are facing the difficulty, right? So to avoid this, so next year, after clearing the prelims, just you need to focus on the revision part, right? So before, okay, so in this year, okay, before December, you must have a proper notes with the answer writing practice, right? So this answer key, your notes, and then the question paper, everything will be useful for the next year mains, okay, for revision purpose, right? Okay. So in this session, we'll discuss about the exam pattern. Some of you might be freshers, right? So I will explain the exam pattern. And the most important thing here, we need to understand the recent trend in the UPSC optional paper, right? So last 2-3 years, there is a change in the pattern in our mains optional paper. We need to understand that. And then how to prepare, okay, based on the recent trend, how we should prepare for the agri optional paper. And then this is a test series program, right? So how we proceed. Finally, I will discuss about the answer writing strategy to score high marks in this paper. Okay, right. So regarding exam pattern, you know very well. So for freshers, I'll give you a small idea about the exam pattern. So in our optional paper, you know, there are the 2 papers totally, 500 marks for mains. So in mains, there is a huge weightage for the optional, right? So to get the interview call and to get any of the service, the optional score is very important. So if you are getting in the range of out of 500, if you are scoring again the range of 280 plus or 290, because nowadays 300 is very, it's not very common, it's very rare, right? But anything about 280 is nowadays is a very good score. Okay, not only in agri optional, any optional, if you are getting in the range of 280 above, it's a very good score. Okay, so the toppers are getting in this range, 275, 276, 280, right? So this is a top score in the agri optional paper, okay, in the recent times, right? So to score this mark, okay, so 280 plus, definitely you get an interview call and any one of the service, right? And your ranking will be based on your SCS score and interview score. Okay, And GS, we cannot make much difference, right? So almost more than 90% students, okay, they get in the same range only. The only difference we can create in the optional and the essay paper. That will create a huge difference in our ranking and the final selection. Okay, right. So we need to focus on the optional paper, and it is possible. Regarding agri optional, it's a static paper, so it's possible to get this score, right? And it is in our control. Okay. So if you really work hard and if you really prepared in a systematic manner, we can able to secure this score. Okay, it is possible, right? So in our mains exam pattern, there are 2 papers, so 2 marks each, right? For each paper, the question will be divided into 2 sections, section A and section B. So there are 4 questions, okay, for each section. There are totally 8 questions. So out of 8 questions, you need to attempt 5 questions. So 3 questions choice. But there is one condition here. In the section A, question number 1, and the section B, question number 5. So these questions are compulsory, right? In our agri optional paper, there are only 2 type of questions, short question and big question. So 10 marks and 20 marks. In the compulsory part, all the questions are 10 mark question, right? So in our optional paper, in the syllabus, there are 10 subjects, roughly 10 subjects under each paper, right? For paper 1 and paper 2. So you are covering nearly 20 subjects for the entire agri optional. Okay, right. So in each paper, we can expect at least 2 questions from each subject. By default, they ask on 10 mark, 120 mark. Okay, from every subject, from environmental science, from weed science, from irrigation, from soil science. Okay, from each subject, we can expect 110 mark, 120 mark. So 2 questions are compulsory. Okay, from each subject. Apart from that, for some areas, they give some extra weightage for the some areas. For example, in the recent times, they are giving extra weightage for the irrigation topic. Apart from this, 2 questions, they are asking extra question from the irrigation. Okay, and then again the nutrient management area, nutrient management, soil science, combinedly they have a huge weightage. Okay, and then in the section B area, mostly extension and farm management. Okay, right. So in our agri optional paper syllabus, there is no clear division of section A, section B. So we can assume that the first 4 or 5 topics questions coming in the section A, and from the last 4 or 5 topics, okay, for the section B. Okay, right. So all the compulsory questions are 10 marks, and then in the choice-based questions we have the pattern is 20, 20, 10. So each question carries 50 marks. Okay, so 5 into 50, 250 marks total, right? So here in the section A and section B, regarding paper 1, based on the nature of the question, we can select the question, right? My suggestion is always we have to select the technical questions, right? So one of the strategy to score high marks in the paper, right? Always try to choose the technical question. So the technical areas are the weed science, irrigation, and then nutrient management, soil science, right? So these are the technical area, right? So try to choose as much as question from the these areas. Okay, right. And then paper 2 area, again same pattern, section A, section B. So here these topics, genetics and cell biology, and then plant breeding, biotechnology and seed technology. So they are part of the section A. So maximum questions from this area, section A, and the remaining syllabus, plant physiology, horticulture, entomology, pathology, and food security. So they're part of the section B. Okay, right. So here again, one strategy in the paper 2, always try to select more question from the section A than section B. Okay. So normally in the pattern, the conditions are, I told you there are 4 questions for each section, right? So question number 1 and 5 are compulsory, right? So for the remaining 3 questions, because we have to attempt totally 5 questions, okay, right? So question number 1 and 5 are compulsory. So for the remaining 3 questions, we cannot select all the questions from a single section, right? So apart from a compulsory question, we have to select one more question, okay, right? So we can follow the either 2 plus 3 pattern or 3 plus 2. Okay. So 2 questions from the section A, 3 questions from the section B, or 3 questions from section A, 2 questions from the section B. Okay. So this is a pattern. Right. So here my suggestion is that always in the paper to follow this strategy. So take choose as many questions as possible from the section A. So 3 questions from the section A and 2 questions from the section B, because they are more technical. So the chances of high scoring in this area very high. Okay, in the genetics, cell biology, and seed technology. And the plant physiology is actually a common topic in the paper 2 and the paper 1 here. Nutrient management, right? So questions will be coming from in section A as well as section B. Similarly, in the paper 2, plant physiology, we can say we can find some question in the section A as well as in the section B. Okay, right. So what's the recent trend now in our UPSC optional paper? So many times in our class and in my comment channel, in my Telegram channel, I have mentioned this several times. So recently UPSC has changed the way they are asking questions. So earlier, simply if you follow the last 10 years question paper or 15 years question paper, we can able to attempt for most of the questions. Maybe 70-80% we can attempt, but nowadays it's not possible. Okay. So what they are doing recently, more micro topic specific questions, right? More micro specific questions. What is the intent here? They expect the students to cover the entire syllabus. Okay, so no skipping. Okay, okay, we cannot skip any part of the syllabus. Why they are asking very specific questions, and in a single question they are asking more sub questions. So the idea is that the students have to cover the entire syllabus, every dimension of the topic. Okay, that's intention, right? Okay, and then for some areas earlier the questions were mostly general from the topic, but nowadays they are asking very crop specific questions. Okay, right. So these are the two major changes in our UPSC pattern for the last 2-3 years. Okay, right. For example, I will explain with some the recent question paper. Say for example, in the remote sensing and geographic information system. So this is one of the important syllabus in our environmental science. Almost every year we can expect one question from this area, the most important area, right? So usually we cover in this area, we cover how we cover this area. We study about what is remote sensing, what are the areas, the components of the remote sensing, types of remote sensing, right? Passive remote sensing and active remote sensing. And then most probably the possible question is application oriented. So discuss the applications of remote sensing in agriculture, right? So usually we study in this way. So there are nearly 8 to 10 applications of remote sensing in agriculture, soil science, weather forecasting, pest and disease monitoring, and then groundwater study, right? So we discuss in this way. There are 10 applications of agriculture, 8 to 10 applications, right? So see here the nature of question earlier in 2018-19, right? So directly from the syllabus word. So discuss the utility of remote sensing in the context of Indian agriculture, right? So application of remote sensing in the agriculture. Okay, 20 mark question. Sorry, 10 mark question. And then utility of remote sensing and the GIS in agriculture. Almost exactly next year also they repeat the same question. Okay, that's why many earlier the faculties and still now they are giving the same advice. They are not seeing the recent trend. Okay, so many in the college. Okay, so the juniors are taking advice from the seniors and they are advising the same. Okay, just go through the 10 years question paper. The question will be will repeat in the same manner. Okay, see here it was a trend earlier. Okay, so without changing the word. Okay, so they repeat the same question next year. But here in 2023 and 2024, okay, see the nature of question. in those applications, the 8 to 10 applications, they are focusing on very specific application. For a 10-mark question, give a brief note on the GIS-based soil mapping and yield mapping. So what is the application of GIS in the soil mapping and yield mapping? These are the 2 applications of the 8 applications, right? And then here, remote sensing system, 2024. What is the use of remote sensing for the ecosystem analysis? Briefly discuss the use of remote sensing for drought monitoring. Okay. So overall, ecosystem analysis means the vegetation cover, the forest cover, soil study, studying about the soil mapping, water sources, right? Forest cover. They are the ecosystem analysis, right? So after writing this application and specifically focusing on the one application, drought monitoring. Okay, right. So this is a recent trend. So what is the problem here in these 2 type of questions, right? Here, the question is very general. So we need to think about what are the applications, right? So once you study the various applications of remote sensing, we can write answer one by one. It is very easy for us to fill the page for a 2-page or 3-page, okay? Because actually in our agri, one more thing I wanted to convey, because many students are, especially the freshers, are making mistake in this area. See, for 10-mark question in our agri optional paper, 2 pages. So now they are giving booklet, right? Question booklet. So for 10-mark question, they are giving 2 pages. For 20-mark question, they are giving 3 pages only, not 4 pages. Okay. Whereas in other optional, they are giving 4 pages. Okay, only in agriculture optional, they are giving only 3 pages for 20-mark question, right? Okay. So in this type of question, we can easily fill the page. If you write 10 applications one by one, you can complete the entire paper, right? So without any special study, by simply remembering the application one by one, we can easily fill the page, right? So superficial coverage is for some areas okay, possible, but here we cannot do that. Okay, superficial coverage, right? So we have to study every application in depth. At least you must have a proper notes for off-page notes for every application, so that we can address the demand of the question, right? If you know just 1 line or 2 line about the soil mapping, yield mapping, how can we fill the page? 2 pages. We have to write for 2 pages, right? So soil mapping for 1 page, yield mapping for another page. Maybe we can fill the page, half page with what is GIS, what are the components of GIS. Then after that, we have to address the main demand of the question. So you must know the specific content for the soil mapping and the yield mapping, how it is utilized in this field. What is the procedure here? What is the process here? And in addition to that, we have to write the specific examples. Which software is used for the soil mapping? Okay, specific application. In which area? Case study. Right? These are the validation in this area. Are the specific examples and case study. Okay, right. Similarly, for this area, drought monitoring. Which satellites are used for this purpose? For drought monitoring, which satellites are used for this purpose, and we can also write about one case study. Okay, right. So don't worry about this. In our test series, I will set the question. Actually, recently I have changed the entire the question pattern. Okay, so I am also setting the question based on the recent UPSC trend. Okay, so in the question paper itself, you'll get this lot of idea. What are the various dimensions are possible? And in the while asking the question, I will cover both PVQ as well as my own questions. So we'll get a clear answer key for every question. Okay, I will cover all these aspects. How can we increase improve the value addition in the answer paper? What are the various dimensions possible? And then I will also include the real case studies, successful case studies, examples, and government schemes and programs linked with those topics. Right. So just if you refer the answer key, you will get all this idea. Right. And then see here one more example in the cell biology area, paper 2. Okay. In the cell biology area, earlier if you see the questions, mostly on a simple question, what is cell? Because there is a syllabus topic. In our syllabus, they have given the word structure and function of the cell, right? That's the syllabus topic. So they set the question, usually they set the question directly from the syllabus topic. Explain the structure and function of the cell. That means you have to describe each cell organelle one by one. And again, it's very easy to fill the page. There are 10 cell organelles in our important cell organelles in the cell biology. So simply by drawing one whole cell diagram, and then we can write the cell organelle one by one, right? But here, in the recent times, in the last 4 or 5 years, and one more thing I wanted to again emphasize this point. Why again PUQ is not the correct way to prepare? Depending PUQ alone, it's not sufficient. Why I'm telling this point? In this, so if you see the last 4 years question paper in the cell biology area, every year they are covering one cell organelle. 3 years back, they asked a question from the Golgi bodies and endoplasmic reticulum. Then 2 years back, they asked the question from the plasma membrane, the fluid hemostatic model of the plasma membrane. And then 1 year back, they asked the question regarding chloroplast, right? Chloroplast with the help of a diagram. And last year, they focused on the plant cell wall. So every year, they are covering one cell organelle, one by one. Okay. Then this year, maybe a question from the mitochondria or nucleus or ribosome, whatever, right? So if you cover only the PYQ, then what about the other cell organelles? Okay. They won't ask the same cell organelle, right? So this year they change, right? So we need to cover for the cell biology, for the structure and function of the cell. For this topic, we have to cover the entire cell organelles with the proper, detailed notes, okay? Because they are focusing on the individual cell organelle. So you have to write, for the chloroplast, you have to write for the 2 pages with a perfect diagram of the detailed diagram of the chloroplast, ultra structure of the chloroplast. Okay, right. And this is a typical the example. You can see how this is the perfect example for the evolution of question setting, in the UPSC, right? So this is our syllabus topic, molecular markers and application in the crop improvement. So describe the applications of molecular markers, direct question, directly from the syllabus, general question. Describe the applications of molecular markers in the crop improvement, 2017, right? And then from the same topic, how they modified the question, 2020. Describe the role of molecular markers, okay? And then one particular application. So 2 parts, okay? So role of molecular markers in agriculture, and then very specifically, this is one of the applications of the molecular markers, marker-assisted selection in the crop improvement, right? And then see last year, right? No general question. Very specifically, they're asking 2-3 applications for the 20-mark question. Sorry, 10-mark question. Okay. So very specific on the marker-assisted selection, and then a suitable example, and then application of the marker selection for the recurrent selection, gene pyramiding and cutil introgression. Right. And here, they are very specific about this example also. We cannot write very general points or the vague points. We need to be very specific with the example also, right? So here one best example for the MAS, selection for cutil introgression, Pusa Basmati, improved Basmati 1. So the IRI released one variety. So Pusa improved Basmati 1. With the help of marker-assisted selection, marker-assisted backcross method. Here they used the marker-assisted backcross method for this variety, IRI. Okay, right. Against bacterial blight. So what is the idea here? In the rice, in the basmati rice, bacterial blight is one of the important disease. So to control this disease, they developed this resistant variety. Here they integrate all the major genes into a single genotype. Okay, that is called gene pyramiding and gene introgression. Okay, right. Okay. So this is a major change in our UPSC, our agri optional paper. Not only agri optional, In any optional, okay, they are asking in this way only. Okay, they change the pattern, right? So we need to understand this pattern. So while preparing for any topic, always okay, you have to think about, for suppose okay, if you are studying for the topic with the applications, okay, mostly because actually in the entire agriculture, it's applied science. Agriculture is a applied science. So mostly the questions will be from the application part. For any topic, you have to study the applications or the significance. So while studying this application or significance, right, for the major topic, you have to prepare for, we have to ready for this, right? Suppose if they ask any specific application, then we must have at least half-page notes for the topic to fill the page. Okay, right. So you need to approach in this way. And then another trend here, some specific questions, crop specific questions. Usually in our paper one, this is okay, mainly particularly in the paper one, is very important. So in the paper one, topics like weed science, and then irrigation, and then nutrient management. In those area, apart from a package of practices, actually under the package of practices, we study about the packages for the various croplands, right? Then in this area, the weed science, irrigation, and the nutrient management area, we study general, not related to any specific crop, right? So we study about what are the various weed control methods, cultural, biological, chemical, and physical methods, right? And then on the irrigation topic, we study about what is irrigation scheduling, what are the different approaches for the irrigation scheduling, right? And then nutrient management topic, we study about the use efficiency of the various nutrients and nitrogen cycle, everything, right? We study in general, not specifically any crops, but in this area, they are including the crops, okay? So very specifically under the weed science area, cultural and chemical control of the weeds, okay, in the soybean and wheat, okay? So under the weed science, usually we study about the overall the cultural practices commonly. So what are the cultural practices like mulching, crop rotation, intercropping, right? So these are the various cultural practices, growing of resistant variety, but very specific to the crop. So cultural practices for the soybean and wheat, and then a chemical weed control for the soybean and wheat, okay, in the wheat science area. In the irrigation topic again, sensitive stages, okay, last year question. Actually, it's part of the irrigation scheduling. Under the irrigation scheduling, there is an approach called critical stages for the croplands. Usually the farmers irrigate this is one of the approach. So farmers usually they irrigate the field based on the critical stages for the cropland, right? One of the critical stage for the rice, for pulses, okay, for wheat, for the wheat, the critical stage is crown root initiation, CRI stage. For rice, the booting stage and flowering stage, vegetative stage, right? For in case of pulses, it's a pod formation stage, flowering stage. Okay, so this is a critical stage approach for the irrigation scheduling. That is the question. What are the sensitive stages for the drought? Okay, right. And then particularly for, okay, they are focusing on the pulses and the cereals, very specific to the crop. And then INM for the transformed rice. INM practice for the, usually we can expect question like INM. What is INM? What are the different components of the INM? But here very specific to the rice. Okay. And then wheat control measures, okay, in the black gram and the sesame. Okay. So in the recent years, 23, 24, 25. So while preparing for the package of practices, we have to keep in mind, right? And while preparing for these type of, okay, these areas, we must cover, okay. Actually here, one more thing, no need to cover for all the crops, not necessary. For important crops, we have to cover these separately. Okay, right. Okay. So based on this trend, we have to modify your preparation, right? So what should be your approach to cover the agri optional paper? So just I told you that in the entire syllabus, we have to cover the various dimension, right? So for every topic in the syllabus, we have to prepare the subtopic list, micro topic list. Based on the micro topic, we have to study we have to cover the areas, right? So for example, in the syllabus topic, so take the example of our weed science area. So under the weight science, there is a topic called chemical control. So this is our syllabus topic, chemical method of control. So under the chemical method of control, the questions, okay, they're asking from the herbicides topic, right? So here we have to cover, okay, so this is just one word because the syllabus is very given in a very brief manner. Actually, our syllabus is vast, agri syllabus is vast, but then the syllabus words are given in a very brief manner, not an elaborate manner. So we need to decode the syllabus, right? So under the chemical control, we have to study what are the various of the chemicals, the famous chemicals used for the various crop plants. Here we have to cover the important crops. The chemicals used for important crops. For example, we need to again, okay, not to worry about, okay, for my class students, they know that, right? So for the important crops, in our class we discussed that for rice, butaclar, for cotton, alaclar, protolaclar or alaclar, right? For wheat, isoprotron. So isoprotron is actually the developed resistance against isoprotron. So we can use the cladinofop. Okay, for wheat we can use the cladinofop, right? So rice, butaclar, cotton, alaclar, and then sugarcane and sorghum, atrazine, right? For all the pulses and millets, oil seeds, pendimethyline. Pendimethyline is the most important chemical, right? So we can cover in this way the chemical control, okay, for the various the crop plants. And then regarding this herbicides, so when the question is about chemical control, then here we have to cover for important crops what are the chemicals used for the important crops, plus what are the advantages and disadvantages of the chemical method. Okay, this is a common area. And then plus we have to cover the herbicide related topics. So here the herbicide classification, and within the classification there are different classification based on the time of application, based on the chemical nature, right? And based on their translocation, there are different types of classification. Okay, within this different dimensions are possible here. And then herbicide resistance developed by weeds, and then herbicide tolerance by the crop plants, HT crops. Okay, and then herbicide efficiency, herbicide efficacy, right? And then herbicide selectivity, and then herbicide residual problems for the croplands and the soil. Okay, we have to cover in this way. So under the herbicide, these are the possible questions. Okay, just okay for a single word in the syllabus, we have to cover this much dimension. Okay, all are the possible questions, right? So again, don't worry about this. In our test series, I will provide before every test, I will provide this decoding of the syllabus. Okay, so from the syllabus topic, I will decode the syllabus and I will provide what are the possible topics we have to cover. What are the possible questions from this topic? Okay, you will get an idea. So just you can prepare based on those decoding of the syllabus. So this I will send before every test. Okay, right. So and then so no superficial coverage, because nowadays the questions are very specific and very micro specific questions. So we cannot cover the syllabus. Okay, no superficial coverage, no vague answers. The answer should be very specific to the question. Okay, right. So and you have to avoid the PVQ only mode. Okay, because still the many students are asking me the same question again and again. Sir, whether I can prepare only with the PVQ. Okay, that's not a correct strategy. I can't say that. Okay, see, even if you because I don't know that. Okay, how many of them cleared with only by referring the PVQ? I don't know about that. Okay, but for my students, I can give only the right guidance. Okay, it's not guaranteed. Okay, maybe by luck they can clear, but that's not the correct strategy. Always, okay, but the correct strategy is you have to complete the syllabus, right? So here I can give an idea how can we follow this preparation. Okay, what should be the correct strategy here? So you can take the syllabus, and then I told you that the decoding of the syllabus, right? So take a syllabus topic, and then we analyze the various dimensions for the syllabus topic. And if you refer my material or any standard reference books, you will get the dimension. So dimension, you don't worry about that. Okay, because they are asking questions from the standard reference books, and I have prepared the material based on those reference books only. Okay, so I have prepared this material. This is a comprehensive material that covers all the dimensions of the topic. Okay, right. So either you can refer me material or some reference books. Okay, right. In the reference, okay, in the material or in the reference books, you can find the dimension. Apart from that, I will send the decoding of the syllabus also, right? So for any topic in the syllabus topic, so first, okay, we analyze the dimension and we cover the topic one by one with the material of the reference books, and we prepare the short notes. The short note like a question answer format. Okay, it's not elaborate notes, it's a question answer format, very short notes, just the major headings and the key points and the examples. That's the format for the short notes. Okay, you can take one A4 sheet and you can divide them into two sides, right? And you can write what's the definition for the topic, and because we have to follow the structure, the introduction, the main body and the content, okay, the conclusion. So we can prepare the short notes in the question answer format, right? So for a topic, the definition, the main content, and then on conclusion, everything in the short note itself. Okay, and the short notes contain only the major headings, dimension, and the key points and examples. And for revision purpose, you can use the short notes. Okay, right. So for every topic, prepare in this way, right? Then after this, after completion of a particular topic, take the PYQ. And already in my comment channel, I have sent one the segregation of the micro topic wise segregation of the PYQ, right? So if you refer that the PYQ for every topic, you can find the questions, the previous year questions, right? So just to do revision. So revision with the PYQ. Okay. So just you are okay. First you are covering the syllabus, taking the short notes, right? For the revision purpose, take the PYQ and then think about this, whether you can able to write answer for this question. Okay. So take question one by one, right? From the previous question paper, and do this brainstorming. So give access to your brain. This is called a active recovery process. Okay. So we are taking the points. Okay, we are recovering the points from our brain one by one, right? So don't prepare with the PYQ, right? After preparation of the syllabus, after covering the entire syllabus, take the PYQ and do revision with the PYQ, right? So try to find the answer for the answer structuring and content for every topic, every PYQ based on your preparation, right? Just take on white sheet, just do scribble, okay? Scribbling on the white paper. So what should be my answer here? So what should be the introduction? What should be the conclusion? Okay, how can I add a diagram here? Okay, what should be the validation for this question? Okay, so do this exercise for half an hour, okay, 1 hour for after completion of the syllabus topic, right? If you do this continuously, right, you can able to cover the syllabus at the same time. You can also cover the PYQ. For any PYQ, if you are finding difficult or unable to answer, then only for those PYQ, refer the internet or the reference book or the internet source. Okay. If you prepare systematically with the proper reference books and the material, you can able to answer for most of the PYQs. It is covered in the material or okay, in the reference books. Only for few questions will be bouncer questions, right? Only for those questions you can refer the internet. Unnecessarily, you need to waste time for referring all the PYQ in the internet. Okay, right. So you need to prepare for every topic. We have to prepare at least half-page notes for the every topic, and then so for every topic we have to prepare a structured answer. Structured answer means the proper introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. Okay. Right, and then avoid generic answers. Okay. So always okay, because our agriculture is a technical subject, it's applied science. So to score high marks, you have to avoid the generic answer. Right. Okay. I will give you an example. Because many of you, you must know the difference between the GS paper and the agri optional paper. Because in the GS also we can expect the same question, right? And many students they get confusion regarding this GS answer and the agri optional answer. Okay, see for example, in there is one question. Discuss the importance of millets in agriculture. The same question possible in the GS paper also. In the GS paper 3, we have agri syllabus, agri issue syllabus, 50 marks from the agriculture in the GS paper 3. So the same question we can expect in the GS paper 3 also. Okay. So here, discuss the importance of millets in agriculture means here we can write about millets are important for the our food security. Okay. And the millets have the export value. And the millets, okay, increase the farmers' income, right? So nowadays, okay, in the under the dry land or the rainfall conditions, the millets increases the farmers' income. Okay. So we can write the points, okay, one by one, right? And the millets are important for the addressing the problems of the our diabetes and lifestyle diseases. Okay. So like that we can write, okay, the points one by one. Okay. So this is the GS like answer, right? Whereas, okay, for the same question, okay, in the optional paper, we have to write agronomically, right? It should be more agriculture, right? So here we can include the points like they are, okay, why they're important for the in the currently our agriculture is dominated with the rice wheat monocropping. So millets are important for the crop diversification. Right. So replacing this rice wheat monocropping with the millets based cropping system. Now, what are the areas we can highlight? Okay, those areas in the rice based cropping system and in the rice based cropping system, in those areas we can replace with the millets cropping system. And then millets are important for the nutritional security. And here we have to mention the specific example of finger millet is, okay, they are rich in the calcium, and the millets are, okay, they are rich in the fiber. So they will address the problem of the lifestyle disease and they are important for the nutrition security. Okay. And then millets are important, okay, for the farmers' point of view. Millets are important for the risk mitigation and so risk mitigation and they are important for one more application, climate resilient agriculture. Okay. So for farmers' point of view, they are important for the climate resilient agriculture, right? Because millets are naturally they are drought resistant. Naturally, millets are highly heat tolerant, and naturally millets are salt tolerant also. Okay, we need to include these points, okay, under this in our optional paper. Okay, so here we can write general advantages, general importance in the GS paper, but the optional paper it should be more technical and more agriculture. Okay, so this is the difference here. So don't give GS like answer, okay, for the in our paper 1, because that's why usually the toppers are getting good score in the paper 2. It's common, okay. Out of, okay, 250 marks, usually it's getting 150, 140 and all very common, okay, in the paper 2. But crossing 130 is a very, very tough, okay, in the paper 1. Because in the paper 1, the questions are, the topics are mostly general, environmental science, ecology, cropping system, cropping pattern, weeds, irrigation, soil and water conservation, right? So the topics are very general. So, okay, for those topics, even non-agri graduates, they can able to write answer for most of the questions. But here the problem is the answer should be more technical. Okay, if you write like a GS like answer, you won't get enough marks. Even if you complete the paper, even if you address the question with a decent answer, you won't get enough marks. Okay. So regarding our test series program, so it's a year-long test series. Okay, year-long means it's a okay 5 to 6 months program. So the test series will go up to November. So the test week is starting from next week, 3rd July. So every Friday, alternate Friday, we have the test. Since it's a year-long test series, so I have given 2 weeks time gap for every test. I feel that it's sufficient to cover the syllabus. Okay, right. So you have a 2 weeks time gap between every test. Okay, every subject. So it consists of 8 sectional tests plus 2 revision tests and 4 full tests. So totally 14 tests in this program. It's more than sufficient to cover the entire syllabus. Okay. Since I am giving more number of tests, so I can able to cover all possible questions, all possible dimension in the particular topic. Because each test is a separate subject. Okay, for every subject there is separate test. For genetics, cell biology, separate test. For breeding, a separate test. Okay, so I can able to cover as much dimension as possible in a single topic, right? And if you follow the test series, you'll be getting nearly so for every test 28 questions. Okay, so nearly 300 questions. At the end of this test series, will be getting nearly 300 questions, right? And this is more than sufficient. So for my class students, you have this material, right? So along with this material, because after every test, I will send the answer key also, detailed answer key for all the questions, right? So for my class students, you have this material plus the answer key for every topic, every question, right? This is more than sufficient. It will cover 100% of the syllabus. Okay. Even if I in the material or in the class, okay, if I miss some topic in the during discussion, that will be covered in the test series question. Okay, you can refer the answer key for from this test series. Right. So regarding feedback and evaluation, so evaluation is based on the UPSC standard. I will take 1 week time for the evaluation. So after evaluation of the paper, I will intimate the student personally through mail or telegram. I will intimate the time for the feedback call. So we have one-on-one feedback after evaluation of every test, right? So this is the program. For the online students, we have created a separate telegram channel. So in the channel, I will intimate all the details. I will provide a mail ID. So you have to submit your answer copy to that mail ID. Okay. So after evaluation, after correction, I will send the mail ID, the copy to directly to your mail ID or the telegram. For the offline students, you can write here. You can come to the academy. You can write here. You can submit the paper. Then here we can have the feedback session every weekend. Okay, right. Right. So once you join this test series, what should be your approach? These are the evaluation standards. Okay. So the marks will be given based on these standards. So first thing, the content. So quality of content is very important because we have a page restriction. So quality is more important than the quantity. Okay. So while giving the content, you have to analyze all possible dimensions with a decent answer, with the proper content and the examples, specific case studies, diagrams, right? They're all important. So content, and then after content, the next important thing you have to follow the proper structuring of the answer. For every topic, you have to follow. Okay, structuring is nothing but giving proper introduction and the main body and the conclusion. And here in agri optional paper, no need to worry about the introduction, right? So introduction is always definition of the particular topic, right? Just simply if you define the topic, that's introduction. Don't think too much about introduction, right? Except a few topics where the introduction is general and we can add some data and specific points. Okay. Otherwise, for most of the topics, the introduction is just definition. And then, so we write the main body, main content, and then finally, for every question, conclusion is important. Again, for conclusion also, regarding our agri optional paper, the conclusion is mostly significance or the importance of the topic. You have to think again this way. So how can we give conclusion for the agri optional paper? There are two types of conclusion. One is, suppose if you are addressing the problematic question, if you are addressing the problems, okay, if you are discussing the issues or challenges or problems, then the conclusion is always way forward. So how to address, okay, those problems, how to address, okay, those challenges. Regarding, okay, the question is like, what are the difficulties or the challenges of the organic method of agriculture, okay, in the country? Organic agriculture, what are the challenges faced with the farmers? What are the issues of the agri marketing in the country, right? So what are the challenges of the biological method of pest and disease control, right? So like, okay, in this type of question, finally we have to give the conclusion like way forward or the solution format. And for most of the technical question, the conclusion is mostly significance or the importance of the topic. Why we have to study this topic? Why we need to understand this concept? Okay, that's the conclusion for the. For example, if the question is, okay, from the agroclimatic zone, then finally we write the conclusion like why this zoning is important, why this classification is important, right? So this zoning of the country into different categories is important for the proper planning and better implementation of the scheme. So finally we can conclude this question, okay, in this way. Or if the question is regarding loss of inheritance or loss of inheritance or the Mendelian loss of heredity, then in that case the conclusion is, after writing the various laws, we can write that why this law is important, why you have to study about, why you need to understand this law, because, okay, the law, okay, they are important for the, they laid the foundation for the future research in plant breeding and genetics. So Mendelian genetics is part of the classical genetics, and they laid the foundation for the modern genetics. Okay, so we apply the concepts of the loss of inheritance concepts in our agriculture, in the plant breeding. So that's the importance of the topic. Okay, that should be your conclusion, right? So for any topic, every topic, whether it's a technical or a general, based on the nature of the question, we can decide the conclusion. Okay, right. So proper structuring is important, and then marks are also given for the neat presentation. So no overwriting. So don't strike out the answer, okay, frequently. No overwriting. So present the answer very neatly with a proper structuring, right? So neat presentation is very important. And then so these two are important for to secure high marks. The proper selection of the question and the question completion. At any cost, try to complete the paper. Okay. So question completion is important, and then selection of the question. Right selection of the question. Just I told you, to score high marks, we have to choose technical question. And the question with the more subtopics, more sub question, right? And then finally, innovation and validation. So many students nowadays, they have this doubt, to score high marks, how can I do validation? Okay, so don't think too much about validation. First, stick with the syllabus. First, okay, try to cover our syllabus with the proper content. Validation, it comes automatically. When you refer current affairs, during your current affairs preparation, when you come across any information related to agriculture, you can think about where we can use this information in the agri optional paper. Suppose, okay, if you're reading about climate change impacts, okay, in agriculture, so recently this year they mentioned the El Nino, super El Nino, right? So we can think about where we can apply this information in the agri optional paper. Okay, after reading the impact of El Nino in the GS, okay, current affairs area, then we can relate this topic with our in our agri optional paper. Under the environmental science, there is a syllabus topic, climate change. So one possible question in that area, discuss the impact of climate change in agriculture. Under this topic, after writing the static content, we can include this information as a validation. Okay, right. So don't, okay, think too much. Okay, don't spend too much time for this validation and current affairs area. They are not important. So there, okay, there is no any, there won't be any direct current affairs question in agriculture optional paper. Agri optional paper is static paper and a technical paper. They won't ask any current affairs question in the agri optional paper. Current affairs are useful only for the validation purpose, and it should not be overdose. Okay, right. So your innovation and validation, that gives the final edge, extra that 0.5 mark or 1 mark because of, okay, this is your innovation and validation, right? And this also, okay, one innovation, okay, the previous topper answer copy. She scored 300 mark, okay, in the agri optional paper. So the question was actually the nitrogen cycle. Okay. So in a single diagram, she mentioned all the cyclic, the pathway, the losses, everything in a single diagram. So this is okay, your innovation. Okay. So the examiner will be convinced after seeing this diagram. He will be convinced, he or she will be convinced that you know enough. Okay, you have enough knowledge regarding this paper. Okay. It shows everything. Okay. So any doubts? So regarding this enrollment for offline students, you can directly enroll academy. So students from Bengaluru, Delhi, or Chennai, they can go to the academy directly. They can enroll there. For online students, you can visit the Shankar IAS website, or if you have any doubts, you can message me. This is my number. I will send you the payment link or the online link for the enrollment for online students. Or you can visit the Shankar IAS website directly. If you have any doubts, you can message me. I will send you the link. So any doubts, online students?